Order in the court! Order in the goddamn court!
Sir, you're out of order.
What's up, Spurs fans? Welcome back to Order on the Court. This is our second episode we've recorded. Today we're going to do something a little bit different and talk about free agency possibilities. I'm here with Rob from Bucking Spurs. What's up, Rob?
What's going on, Harrison? What's up, Spurs Nation?
Yeah, we also got Maddie from Spurs Fan Blog. What's up, Maddie?
What's up, Harrison, Spurs Nation? Good to be back with you guys.
And then last but certainly not least, we got Destin from Spurs Wave on Instagram. How you doing, Destin?
Doing good. I'm doing good.
So basically the first thing we wanted to get started with today was talking about where the Spurs stand right now and their kind of dream free agency scenarios as we see it. So I'll go reverse order since I introduced you last. What's your dream free agency scenario, Destin? Who do you think we need to get? What do you think we need? All guys.
So I was looking into like certain teams that kind of want to get rid of players. And right now, I know this is going to sound crazy, but right now I know that Donovan Mitchell, right now they kind of want to get rid of him. Not they don't want to, but they're kind of forced to with the whole thing with him and Rudy Gobert. At least that's what it sounds like right now. So what I would personally really want, like what my dream would be, is to find a scenario in which we could get him. And so this is just straight up just dreams. Probably it never happened ever. But what if we could end up extending or getting DeMar DeRozan back, talk to him and say, you know what, hey, do you want to go to Utah Jazz? Maybe he could sign back with us. Trade him with Dejounte Murray and get Mike Conley with Donovan Mitchell. That's personally what I would want. And I know that sounds crazy and that's like really out there because you're like, oh, Dejounte Murray, he's amazing. But at the same time, it's like I don't know what his ceiling is right now. I know he's about to make 14 to 15 million next year. So I don't know what his ceiling is. But if we did do something like that, we would get Mike Conley, which I know it's a huge contract, but he only has one more year left. So no telling where that could go. But I know he's not working out with the Utah Jazz right now. So we would have a player that could help Derek White, probably immediate starter. I mean, I don't think there'll really be a complaint by any fan as far as Mike Conley starting. And then you would have Donovan Mitchell, coming up also. So I think that would be that's my ideal scenario. Then as far as the players that are left, we will have $5 extra million from Pau Gasol because that looked like that's going to be off the books. So maybe we can use that $5 million to go towards, I don't know, maybe Alex Len or somebody out there that's kind of young also and have another big. But that would be my ideal scenario.
Wow.
Yeah. Like you said, like with Dejounte, I mean, he's good, but if we're doing that, you got to give up talent to get talent. And that's what a lot of people don't understand is you got to make the trade enticing. But I'm curious, because you went after Donovan Mitchell, but a lot of people seem to want to go after Rudy Gobert. Do you just think Donovan's a better fit or not that high on Gobert?
Man, Gobert, he's just so goofy. I mean, if it's just a dream scenario. If we got Rudy Gobert, that would be great because I know he's such a good defender. We need a big and all of that. But man, he's just so doggone goofy. And then with the whole, I think it was Manu Ginobili. See, a lot of sources getting this messed up. Was it Manu Ginobili or Marco Bellinelli who said that about Rudy Gobert recently? Because I've been seeing Marco. It was Marco? Okay, because one source said Manu the other day, and now it's saying Marco. So, okay, so Marco Bellinelli ended up saying something in the lines of what he did was awful or what he did was terrible. So I feel like he's not the only player that probably feels that way. Now, sure enough, we're probably not going to have Marco, going forward anyway. But at the same time, I have a hard time believing no one else on the team feels that way. And Donovan Mitchell just has that kind of personality where I think he will fit perfect with San Antonio. But Rudy Gobert does too.
Well, Donovan Mitchell he's a USA guy. He was with Pop all summer.
Yeah, good. Yeah, exactly. You talking Donovan Mitchell, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I just think everything would just – I mean, that would just be perfect for me. And then I know that a lot of fans would be upset about, Dejounte Murray if we did trade Dejounte Murray. But at the same time, hey, you got another young guy that's coming up that more than likely is going to be better, just my opinion. But, hey, that's my thoughts on it. That would be my dream scenario.
So then, in your dream scenario, Destin, who's the starting five? Let's say it all happens. Who's on the court next year starting for the Spurs?
Ooh, didn't think that far. All right. Well, it will be – okay, so DeMar DeRozan will be gone. So I would have to start Mike Conley. Donovan Mitchell would have to start. I know he's short. He's taking the point guard.
He's the
But,
guy. He's the guy.
He got to start.
Yeah.
At the 3, I would probably run with – look, we still got Rudy Gay. So probably Rudy Gay and then LaMarcus Aldridge and Pirtle. That's what I would probably have to go with. Because anyone else at that 3 spot might be just too small, unless we put Keldon there, which would be cool. But, yeah, Lonnie Walker would probably have to come off the bench as well. But that's what I would go with.
Okay.
So you'd start Conley over White. That's interesting.
Look, look, he's so good. I'm huge on Mike Conley. Like, I'm one of the biggest Mike Conley fans. And I just know that he could take on that starter role and do perfect. As far as Derek White, I think that it's a little more – it makes a little more sense in my mind, Derek White's going behind Conley than right now him being behind Murray. It would just make more sense to me. So that's what I would roll with.
No, I feel that. That'd be a scary defensive lineup if they ever played Conley and White together too.
Yeah.
That's I always liked Conley in Memphis, and I guess you might have to start him because I think his whole thing with Utah was he was pissed that he wasn't in the starting lineup from the get and all that. But yeah, that'd be an interesting one. So we got dream trade for Donovan Mitchell, get him there, get a guy like Alex Len. What about you, Maddie? Where do you see the team going in a fantasy direction?
It's tough to predict anything fantasy-wise. I really don't hate the roster we have. I think through a few internal changes, I think the team can be a lot better. In terms of free agency, I kind of look at what are our weak points and where do we need more depth. And I like where we're at in the backcourt. I think, I like Dejounte and Derek. I think we'll probably maybe re-sign Bryn on a light deal, a team-friendly deal, and we can reduce his minutes. I'm okay with him. I think the shooting can still be important. I think Lonnie should be more of a 2. I think he's kind of out of position at the 3, a little undersized. So I kind of look at our lack of depth more at the small forward position, especially if we let DeMar walk, which would be included in my fantasy scenario. I would let DeMar walk. Again, not that I hate DeMar, not that I think he's a bad player or a bad guy. I think that would just give us a lot of flexibility, and especially in the scenario we're talking about. I think our front court's pretty set, right now, at least for next year. We got Aldridge, Rudy signed on, Trey. And obviously, this would also be including we re-signed Jakob. So it's really that 3 spot, that small forward position that I think we would need someone. And I'm just kind of looking down the list. And I think, was it you, Destin, that talked about Gordan Haword? Were you a Gordan Haword guy?
Yeah, I'm a big Gordan Haword person.
Yeah, I like Gordan Haword. I mean, ever since that ankle injury, he's been kind of a little streaky. So, I don't know. It's tough about who would, actually come here. But if it was me and my choice and I got anybody, I mean, Gordan Haword would be up there. One player I really love is Daniel, how do you say his name? Daniel Gallinari. Gallinari. I don't know his first name, but I was a huge fan of his when he was on the Clippers. I thought he should have been an all-star. I was a big fan of him and Tobias Harris. If Tobias Harris was a free agent, I would definitely say him too, because those 2 guys in LA I thought were just very low-key kind of Spur-type players. I think Gallinari fits the European theme that the Spurs always have going on. So Gallinari, I'm not even going to pronounce his first name. I'm going to try, but Gallinari would be up there. Gordan Haword too. Davis Bertans, sadly. But yeah, I would try to fill in that 3 spot. I'll choose Gallinari as my guy. If they could maybe sign one big, I would also get Marcus Gasol on board as well. I love his game, and I think I've always thought of him as a perfect Spur. So like if we're talking like dream lineup, I'd go Dejounte at the 1, Lonnie at the 2, Gallinari at the 3, Aldridge at the 4, and Marcus Gasol at the 5. And then I'd have Derek back up DJ, Patty back up Lonnie, Keldon back up Gallinari, Trey back up Aldridge, and Jakob back up Gasol. And I think just with both those lineups, you got shooting, you got defense, you got versatility, you got pretty interchangeable guys 1 through 3 that can guard and play any position on offense or defense. But like I said, I really don't hate our roster the way it's currently structured. I just think through a few internal changes, through rotations and minutes, we can get a lot better. But Gallinari, Marcus Gasol are definitely 2 guys I thought were kind of high on my wish list. Don't know how realistic that is, but if I was dreaming, that'd be my dream.
I'm kind of with you too. I see Lonnie Walker more as a 2. I don't see him as a 3. I think he's athletic enough to play the 3, but they kind of did that out of desperation this year more than anything because poor DeMar, he's not a 3 either. But we've got an abundance of shooting guards. But yeah, it's a logjam for sure. But I like Gallinari because that's some spacing in the offense and the ball back in Dejounte's hands and all that. And then Gasol gives you extra defense. So you said Gasol over Pirtle, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, if I had to choose between the 2, I'd choose Gasol, but I prefer to re-sign Jakob. Just I think he's going to be our center for the future. And if in a perfect world, if we could get both, I'd want both. But I think obviously Gasol is going to be he's a more complete player. He's a proven player. Very high IQ. Just he can really do it all. He is kind of old. I don't know how old he is exactly, but I'm assuming he's kind of on the wrong end of 30 or getting close to that. So
yeah.
I have always loved his game. I always hated watching him.
Well, those Gasol brothers. Those Gasols, man, they never get out of the damn league. There's Paul's still in there, so
I'm like
you never know how long Marco's going to stay. He might stay
like,
another 8 years.
I'm one of like 5 fans that actually like Paul on our team. I mean, now people say he was way overpaid, which I don't disagree with, but people got to understand we don't really get free agents here a whole lot. So when you're paying these guys, you're paying Patty, you're paying Powell, like to keep those, those veterans. While I agree they're not really giving you the most bang for your buck, we're not going to sign a Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Kyrie Irving type player. They're just not. I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge was arguably the biggest free agency signing in franchise history. So while I don't think Pau Gasol, I think he was kind of on his last leg, and I wasn't sad to see him go. I just thought he was a pretty solid player for us. I thought he was a double-double guy. He was a good vet. I mean, in his first 2 years here, we made it to the Western Conference Finals, and obviously the whole Kawhi injury, but we still made the playoffs. Like, I'm just saying, I don't think he was as bad as Spurs fans say he was. That's all I'm saying. I know I might catch a lot of flack for that, but
no, we didn't use him right. That was my main thing with Pau Gasol. Yeah, he was getting paid way too much, but we didn't use him correctly because it seemed like he was most effective when he was a stretch big and when that was like his primary role. But it felt like we went away from that. It got to a point where he was taking maybe 1 3 a game, maybe. And then it got to a point where he wasn't playing at all. So, yeah, I don't know.
2017, he had like more 3-pointers in that year than his whole career.
Yeah, we used him kind of like we used Boris Diaw. And, he's a good post passer and stuff like that. But when you're paying $16 million a year for Boris Diaw and it's not an effective measure with the team, because that team wasn't the 2014 team. I mean, it was completely different style, and you got 2 bigs clogging the post like that don't roll like our post did in 2014. It just all goes to hell. So yeah, I think you're right, Destin. They should have used him more of a stretch big role and all that.
Yeah,
but
that's what he was best at.
Oh yeah. So what about you, Rob? We've got just kind of keeping it within the organization, signing somebody, no big trades. What's your dream scenario? I know it's got to be something involving DeMar walking.
Okay, so let's get that out of the way, right? DeMar DeRozan opts out and leaves. If we get something back for him in return, that that's great. That's not really what I'm anchoring this scenario on. So my dream scenario is he leaves. That means that we have LaMarcus Aldridge that we have to deal with, right? So unlike Destin, I'll take the goofy big guy in Utah, and I would swap LaMarcus Aldridge and Gobert straight up on the
I would too.
on the NBA trade machine. It works. Now, does Utah want to do that? I think Utah would want to do that. If Conley, Aldridge, Mitchell, like that's a pretty nasty 1-2-3 if you ask me. So it makes sense for Utah on the court, and for us, I think what it does. And okay, so imagine this: DeMar's gone, LaMarcus is gone. We've got Rudy Gobert, who's really our only guy that's taken up all this cap space, right? So then that gives us some more flexibility to go out and get like some like role players that are maybe a little bit more expensive, like Grant, the guy that I talked about before. Players like that, we can actually pay those guys about $10-11 million a year for a few years, but really what I think that does is that opens up cap room for the next year for when Giannis becomes, sorry, Matt, but when Giannis becomes a free agent. I mean, I want the Spurs to be in that mix. I want the Spurs to be in the mix. I want them to have the flexibility to do it. And so to me, if we let DeMar go and just like hopefully maybe I don't even think we need to sign and trade him. Just let him walk. Ultimately, that's on us. We just got to live with it and move forward. And maybe we get a draft pick out of it, whatever. But he's gone, so we have all his money. We pretty much just swapped out contracts with LaMarcus Aldridge and Gobert, and so that kind of stays the same. So it just gives us more flexibility moving forward when it comes to like cap situation wise. And on the court, to me, it makes the most sense in the world, man. It's like we have a big guy who's like Jakob. That makes Jakob expendable, to be honest with you. It makes Jakob this summer in free agency. Maybe if he gets offered a big contract, we don't match it, and we let him walk, and we let Chimezi and Drew kind of take their shot at it. You know what I mean? So, but then you get to open up the rest of the roster, and the offense. The shots don't go to LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan anymore. They get to go to Murray, and they get to go to Walker, and things like that. Those guys get to take 15, 20 shots a game because Rudy Gobert doesn't need the ball. I mean, you're paying this guy to be your defensive anchor, and to be that on a team that needs defense, it just makes too much sense. Now, let me give you my starting lineup if all this is to work out, because there's still a little there's still something in here that may not make sense to everybody, but I just want you to think about it. Dejounte Murray and Derek White, they're going to start together, okay? In my lineups, in my mind, they're always starting together, okay? So they're starting together. Then we're going to get Lonnie Walker at the 3. A little bit small, a little bit out of position, like y'all said. I agree. But I think he can grow, and he's still young. His body can still grow and develop. I think he can get there. You know what I mean? So Lonnie at the 3, and then I would put Luka at the 4, and then Rudy Gobert at the 5, and let that starting line. I mean, think about it. The defense. Oh my God. You got DJ and Derek and Rudy Gobert with Lonnie, who can be your X factor on defense. And Luka gives you that offensive threat because you need another scorer mentality. I just like Luka over Trey in this lineup. I feel like Luka's going to be more assertive. He's going to look to shoot. He's going to look to drive, look to score. He's not going to be, where that's secondary for Trey. So I feel like it just makes sense, even though that's not going to happen. They'll never give Luka Trey spot just because. I don't think, but you never know. But that's my dream scenario coming into next season, and that means that we let go of Marco. I hopefully we can get rid of Rudy. Rudy's not really in my plans for next year. Whatever we can do with his contract. Hopefully we give Bryn Forbes somewhere around $6.5 million. I think just a little bit under what we gave Davis makes sense. You know what I mean? I think we can ask Bryn to stay around for 4 years. If we keep the option on the third year, on the last year, a team option, and give him a little bit under $7 million a year. And I think that makes sense for him coming off the bench. It's the same thing we gave Davis. We gave him $7 million. But Davis gave us a little bit more defensive versatility, I feel like. So maybe a little bit less than Davis. And then that gives you like, what's his name? A player like Grant to come off the bench for you. That gives Keldon more minutes. That gives everybody more minutes that's already there. But you plug in a few players, you stay in the Giannis mix for the next season, all while getting a defensive player of the year to anchor your defense for the next 2 years. And that's my way to go about it. And just forget the DeMar and LaMarcus Aldridge stuff, and let's head to the future.
Now, are we going to be in the mix for Giannis regardless, though? Do you
No.
think?
No. Dude, I got friends who are probably going to watch this, and they tell me they like lose sleep thinking about Giannis leaving. And we talked about it, and he's not going to leave, in my opinion. I mean, from like I listen to like a lot of local radio sports talk here in Milwaukee, and I mean, there's just no indication that he wants to leave. He said he wants to kind of be a Tim Duncan, Dirk, Kobe type of guy that stays with one team. Now I followed it a little bit, and because like there's been rumors here and there, but I mean, with Bleacher Report, there's always going to be. And I saw he was, if there was one team, I think he would leave and go somewhere else. It'd be Golden State if he left.
See, I heard him say Spurs one time too. Was it last summer?
I don't
know.
Fake
like
news.
Pop.
He likes Pop.
Everyone likes Pop. I mean,
everyone likes Pop.
Yeah.
Hey, nonetheless, I want to be in that mix, even if it's like a.
If we get Giannis, I'll be
in.
happy. My friends will hate me, but I'll be happy.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to leave, but I definitely want to be in a spot financially where we're able to offer him and at least give him that option to leave if he decides to, because that would be amazing.
Well, that's what I was saying. I think financially we should be in that position regardless. I mean, unless we sign a big contract right now, right?
Yeah, but
that's one thing I was going to cover is if we trade guys for other guys who are extended past next year, then it puts us in a little bit of a spot with cap obligations. And that's the one thing we have going for us is if DeMar does opt in, he, Rudy, and LaMarcus all expire at the end of next season. So
and Maddie, I think, too, right?
Yep.
Maddie.
Yeah, Patty too. So it's something, a figure like $60 to $70 million off the cap there, and then you have Derek up for an extension. He'll probably get something like a Murray type extension. So I mean, you're going to have enough to offer a guy like that, upwards $27-30 million a year.
I like the idea of Rudy Gobert at the 5, Giannis at the 4, and our young guys that we're going to be able to play for a long time for cheap. Like a lot of this youth right now, we're not going to have to really give them big money probably until about 3-4 years from now, right? So it gives us that flexibility to play them, let them grow and develop. Meanwhile, having these two guys, and I know I'm always talking about free agency, we suck in it, and all this stuff. But if we were to pull this off, we'd be like the best defensive team in the league for I don't know how long. If we had those two guys on the same page. And
how much, in my scenario, how much do you think Donovan Mitchell would be worth after next season? Because I know right now he's only making, this season was $3 million, 3.6, and then it's going to be $5 million.
Someone's going to offer him upwards 20 to 21 million a year, probably more than that. The scoring load he's capable of. I mean, that's one of the few rookie performances we've never seen before, is he just comes in and takes over. I think he's going to be looked at as kind of a max player. But, I mean, in your scenario, if we could at least get him in the system and all that, he may be willing to take a hometown discount or something if he likes where he's at and all that, especially given the whole situation he had in Utah this year, playing with the team that drafted him. So you never know.
If you're Utah, I mean, do you ever let him go though? That's
if I'm Utah, I'm trying to get rid of Rudy Gobert if the situation's irreparable. I don't think I'd ever try to get rid of a player like Donovan Mitchell.
And I'm not following the story, but who's not good? I know that like Rudy and Donovan, they're not cool.
Yeah, well, Rudy didn't take this whole, at least so the story goes. I mean, we all saw he didn't really take this whole COVID-19 thing seriously. And obviously he gave it to Donovan Mitchell. And apparently he'd been running around the locker room, joking about it, touching everything in the locker room like he did at the press conferences. And Donovan Mitchell was just kind of apparently pissed off, saying he felt like if he'd taken it more seriously, this thing wouldn't have spiraled out the way it would have. And just kind of offended that he wasn't taking his teammates' health seriously.
So is Donovan telling Utah like, hey, it's either me or him, or like I don't want to be here, like make this happen, or
That's what they're saying right now. I mean, it's like I said, it's so hard to tell if they're just blowing it out of proportion because there's nothing else to talk about. But it said their relationship is very frayed from what we're hearing, and the team's trying to get it back together.
Did you get the report like literally 10 minutes before we jumped on Bleacher Report saying that Rudy Gobert admits that things aren't good between the players, but he still wants to win a championship? I'm like, dude, what are you talking about basketball? This isn't about basketball anymore.
I saw it. It was actually, I think it was on his live stream, and the video is out there. And he was basically saying that things aren't perfect, but we talked, and both of us just want the same thing. We just want to win. But I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like things aren't that great because, I mean, if you have to admit, things aren't perfect. It's like, no, this don't sound right.
Yeah. But, I mean, hey, if you can snag him for a year or something like that, maybe you put up with it after the stuff is done. You never know. But I was going to say my approach to this whole thing, I guess we call it dream, but I try to keep it more on a realistic side for me. So my dream within our scope, I guess. And maybe I'm different, but I tend to value the draft a little bit more than free agency. Like we talked about in our first mailbag, we all like homegrown talent. We don't hit it big in the free agency market all that much. So it's important to get those guys who can stick around for the long haul and kind of be part of that culture from the start. So my whole thing is getting young guys the time they need right now. So obviously, first off, I'm with you, Rob. I think I want DeMar to walk. If he accepts his player option, it puts us in a tough spot next year, but we're done with it after that. But I think it's just best for him to get on a team, maybe even go back to Toronto. He still loves it there. They're primed to win a title with him if he goes back, which is what he wanted all along. And that frees up space, but mainly because if he opts in, I keep seeing this all over all of our page. Trade DeRozan for picks. First of all, you can't dump a salary of $27 million. The only team that had cap space this year to do that was Atlanta, and they had $3 million of cap. So that's trading essentially one of our rookies for a first-rounder. And no one wants to trade the rookies right now because, we want to see them play. And then the other thing is they say trade DeRozan for somebody or a better player. They say trades are fair, but they're not. That's what I tried to tell people with Kawhi Leonard. You're lucky if you get back about 50 to 60% value on a trade because it's a buyer's market. It's not a seller's market. And with DeMar, his contract makes him really hard to trade. You're either going to get someone who's vastly overpaid for their talent level, or teams wanting every draft pick from here to 2030 thrown in there. So I say let him walk. One thing, I was actually surprised that y'all brought it up, but Lauri Markkanen apparently is not in Chicago. And one thing I was looking at is, what would it take to pull off a trade? So I went and looked at all their contracts, and they have Cristiano Felicio signed to an $8 million a year deal, which is a horrible contract because they hardly play him. So I figure, what if, since Markkanen's still on his rookie deal, you trade for him and Felicio, say, we'll take this bad contract off your hands, and we're getting a good player. It works out if you offer Rudy Gay. And then you look at they might lose Otto Porter Jr., and then they've got a small forward that's older but does similar things for him if they do lose him. If not, they've got a guy who can work in their small ball scheme and come off the bench with some of their dynamite young guys. And then we've got our multifaceted dynamic big guy, and we are still obligated to Felicio next year, but $8 million isn't that much. You can always flip him. You can waive him and hope he clears waivers. I mean, what's $8 million in dead cap? We've seen that before. So that's one trade I'd love to make, and then that gets Rudy off the books and makes room for Keldon Johnson to come in. And as I've talked about before with the draft, this year I don't mind trading down. It's a role players draft. There's probably 3 guys I may take if we could trade up. But I think trading down might be the move. Get 2 picks in this year's draft or an extra pick in next year, something like that for our current pick. Draft a solid wing to play there in a backup role, and maybe another big man, depending on how we assess the situation with Markkanen. But then I'd say, I don't think Aldridge is part of our future plans. It's just his game doesn't match the style we're trending towards. But I also don't think we're going to unload him right now. So I'm just going to keep him and say let him walk after this coming season. And that way you've still got cap freed up to pursue a guy like Giannis without having to pay LaMarcus, but you also don't have to go through the frustration of people turning you down. And that's not to say we can't shop them around. The Heat are apparently still interested. But so I'd say my dream starting 5 next year essentially would be Murray at the point. I'd put Lonnie at the 2. I'd put Keldon at the 3. I keep LA at the 4, and then I'd have Lauri Markkanen at the 5. Even though he's played 4 most of his time in Chicago, but he's 7'1". I mean, the guy's big enough and strong enough to play the center. Plus, he can stretch the floor. He can dribble. He's basically he's what Luka was compared to early on in the combine. And then if you got Luka backing up and coming into the starting spot after next year when Aldridge leaves, that's a crazy offensive and defensive lineup going forward. And then you're looking at drafting a couple wings and bigs to back up, re-signing the guys, and then you've got sustainable contracts for the future there. So that's at least my take on it.
Order in the court! Order in the goddamn court!
Sir, you're out of order.